Hi, today I want to tell you a story about something that my students know I'm really passionate about, space. They know that anytime they're studying the planets or the solar system or anything that's involving space, that I get super excited. And actually, this year we decided that we would name all of our tables based on things from space, and that was so fun. My table got to be the sun. So I'm really excited to tell you a story about the Voyager Interstellar mission project, which happened in 1977. I listened to a podcast about this, so I want to retell the story that I heard because it's so interesting to me and I want to share it with you. This project was like a cultural Noah's Ark. So, what it was two spacecrafts, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, and they would lift off from planet Earth and they'd be moving at a speed of about 35,000 miles an hour for the next 1,000,000,000 years. On the Voyagers would be records. You may have seen your parents listening to vinyl records. They're big circular discs, and you place them in a record player and you put a needle on them and it plays sound. They were going to send two of these out into space that had things recorded on these records that told about life on Earth. It was a chance to tell something of what life on Earth was like to beings who were thousands of millions of years away. And the reason that they were thinking that far into the future was because the Voyager engineers said that the record would have a shelf life of 1 billion years, meaning it would last that long. Did I mention that the record would be made of copper and be gold plated? On this record would be sounds from all over the world, such as greetings in 59 different languages, and even a greeting from a non-human species, the humpback whale. There was also a mother's kiss and her words to her newborn baby. There was music from all over the world. There were other animal sounds and sounds from nature, such as waves or thunder. And they even managed to record brain waves and turn them into sound and put them on this record. Carl Sagan, who was the chair of the committee of people who decided what would go on the record, said that the golden record would be like a message in a bottle being tossed into the sea of the cosmos. So 40 years after they launched Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, NASA is still in contact with them. They were able to build something so well that with the energy of a feeble little toaster, they could communicate with Voyager as she left to wander the Milky Way galaxy, intact. In fact, they went on to undiscovered places to learn things that we had never known before. So, where are the Voyager probes right now? The point of the mission wasn't actually to deliver a golden record into space. It was actually to go out and look at planets in the outer solar system. So, starting in 1977, the two little spacecrafts, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, went racing away from Earth, snapping pictures. And every time Voyager would reach another planet, it would send pictures back to NASA. All the pictures that you look at when you're doing research at school, like the image of Saturn and its rings, or the active volcanoes on one of the moons of Jupiter, or Neptune's deep, beautiful blue, all of those came from Voyager. We had no idea what things really looked like before the Voyager mission. Neptune was the last planet that they were supposed to photograph, and then they were going to shut the cameras off to save energy. But Carl Sagan convinced them to turn Voyager back to Earth to take one final picture. So on Valentine's Day in 1990, Voyager slowly turned around to face Earth, and it took one final picture. It's mostly empty, and it's pretty dark. You can see streaks of light coming from the sun, and then you honestly wouldn't even notice if it wasn't pointed out to you. But down in one corner, suspended in a sunbeam, there's a tiny little dot, a pale blue dot, as Carl Sagan would say. And that was Earth. That was us. In Carl Sagan's words, everyone you ever knew, everyone you ever loved, every superstar, every corrupt politician, just everyone in all of history, everything, the sum total, in that one sunbeam on that one pale blue dot. It's one of those really rare images, and it helps a lot of people put it into perspective that we're all in this together, especially during this time in our history. That little blue dot belongs to all of us, and it's all of our responsibility to take care of it. After that, the cameras were turned off, but they kept going, and they kept going, and they kept going. And they continued to do experiments using their little instruments, and they would send information back to Earth every once in a while. Sometimes it was just what the temperature was, or they would detect how many particles were around them. So they were hurtling through space, sending back data that they collected. And the scientists were listening and waiting. They knew at some point that the Voyagers would get to the edge. The edge of what? The solar system. Did you know the solar system has an edge? It does. It has an edge. It's like a bubble. See, the sun has a wind. Can you imagine that, the sun having a wind? Every star has a wind, but the sun has its own wind that blows out through the solar system. It's very fast. It can be between 400 and 800 kilometers per second. It blows out past all the planets and it keeps everything else out. So this is actually what gives the solar system its shape. It takes 14 years of waiting. And then there comes a day in 2004 when the wind speed from the sun drops all of a sudden. And everything starts to get really messy and turbulent. So were they out of the solar system? Apparently not. Voyager was just in the edge of the solar system. And the scientists kept listening, and it seemed like the Voyagers were still in the edge of the solar system for years and years. So then something really interesting happened. The wind on Voyager 1 stopped, but all the other measurements were the same. So scientists decided that there's actually an edge to the edge of the solar system. In this edge of the edge, it's very still. There's no wind at all. It's like a pause. So they're calling it the stagnation layer. And there's a big discussion on why this layer exists and how thick it is. But once Voyager crosses this edge, it's going to be the first man-made object to ever leave our solar system. So it's really, really important. Then, in August of 2012, all of a sudden, the sun particles dropped out. And so people thought, oh, now we're out of the solar system. But then they came back. And this kept happening. Are we out? Are we in? Are we out? Are we in? There were these very heated discussions amongst the scientists whether we were in or out of the solar system because they wanted to be able to tell everybody in the world if we were actually out or not. They didn't want to tell people that we were out and then it actually not be true. And they started having all these arguments about whether or not we were in or out. So they decided to have a vote. And in the end, they voted that we were not out of the solar system yet. Around the time that these arguments were happening, the tape recorder on Voyager 1 recorded these two sounds that they sounded like swells, like shh, shh. And what the scientist Merav Ofer says that these swells are is the Voyager colliding with galactic space stuff. And NASA decided that that meant we were officially out of the solar system. The official date is said to be 25th of August, 2012. We will actually still be able to communicate with Voyager 1 and 2 for about 10 more years, and then eventually they won't have enough power and it'll all go dark. The Voyager is still traveling through space, and it carries this message from President Carter, who was the president when the Voyagers were launched. The Voyager spacecraft was constructed by the United States of America. We are a community of 240 million human beings among the more than 4 billion who inhabit the planet Earth. We human beings are still divided into nation states, but these states are rapidly becoming a single global civilization. We cast this message into the cosmos. It is likely to survive 1 billion years into our future when our civilization is profoundly altered and the surface of the Earth may be vastly changed. Of the 200 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy, some, perhaps many, may have inhabited planets and seafaring civilizations. Of the 200 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy, some, perhaps many, may have inhabited planets and seafaring civilizations. If one such civilization intercepts Voyager and can understand these recorded contents, here is our message. This is a present from a small distant world, a token of our sounds, our science, our images, our music, our thoughts, and our feelings. We are attempting to survive our time so we may live into yours. We hope someday, having solved the problems we face, to join a community of galactic civilizations. This record represents our hope and our determination, and our goodwill in a vast and awesome universe. So maybe you'd like to do some research about the solar system or about some specific planets. You could make a chart of the solar system. You could even research whatever is outside of our solar system, other stars. There are different types of stars. Maybe you want to research Carl Sagan, who had a lot of input about what went onto the Golden Record, or maybe Ann Druyan, who was the creative director. The Golden Records each have symbols etched into them, and maybe you want to find out what those symbols mean. Maybe you want to know more about the history of listening devices. So right now we use our smartphones usually to listen to music. What kind of device did your parents use when they were growing up? What about your grandparents? You could make a timeline about the different listening devices. What was the first listening device that was ever invented? I really hope you enjoyed this lesson. Bye.